Hello, everybody. This is Finfine News Network, and I'm Daniel Debaba. Today, I'll be discussing about the negotiation and war between the Oromo Liberation Front, Oromo Liberation Army, and the Prosperity Party government of Ethiopia. So, as you all know, the negotiation between the Oromo Liberation Army and the Ethiopian government started around April 26 this year, 2023, in Zanzibar in Tanzania. The negotiation took about 1 week and was concluded on May 3rd. On the conclusion, both sides issued a press release saying that during the current rounds of talks, there was no much agreement between both sides, and that they confirmed both of them confirmed their desire to continue rounds of talks to iron out the differences between the two parties. Um, so the press release that came out from that meeting almost was a copy paste from each other, and it looked like it was issued through a negotiation and all or almost the same copy from both sides. And both sides did not want to speak to the media that much, so the content and the disagreement or agreement between the Oromo Liberation Army, Oromo Liberation Front, and the Prosperity Party was not released to the media and in detail. Um, but there was a hope that the beginning of the negotiation between the Ethiopian government and the Oromo Liberation Army will result in cessation of hostilities, and there was an expectation that there will be ceasefire. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So the Ethiopian government, just like it's used to do in the north of the country when there was war between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People Liberation Front, the Tigray Defense Force, the Ethiopian government wanted to consolidate power and come out stronger, and so that it can pressure the Oromo Liberation Front, the Oromo Liberation Army, accept the government provisions, the government demand in terms of negotiations. However, I don't think the outcome of the ongoing war is what the Ethiopian government expected. The war has been very intense. It was carried out in multiple battlefields in different parts of Oromia. The war, as we all know, the war has been continuing in Western Oromia, in Walaga zones, in West Walaga zones, East Walaga zones, in Central Oromia, surrounding the capital, Finfinne, and in Guji zones, in Borona zones, and in RC, Bale, in Hararge zone. Almost there is no region or zone in Oromia that is not already under the occupation of under the control of the Oromo Liberation Army. The Oromo Liberation Army controls large swaths of lands, and the Ethiopian government has been conducting operations to dislodge the Oromo Liberation Army and to come out victorious, so that it can dictate the terms of negotiation and the next round of talks. However, the Oromo Liberation Army forces have been very strong, and they have they have overpowered the Ethiopian government forces, the Ethiopian federal defense forces, in almost in every front that the war has taken place in the last couple of weeks. Just a couple of days ago in Kombolcha and East Walaga zone, the Oromo Liberation Army soldiers almost neutralized more than 70 Ethiopian defense forces. and they injured more than 50, confiscated a lot of weapon caches or ammunitions, heavy weapons, and the likes. Locals have informed Finland's networks that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces have retreated to cities like Afinja, and this has taken place almost in all fronts in Shawa, in Metawalkite, in East Shawa zones, in Guji zones, in West Wallaga zones, in all fronts. The Ethiopian National Defense Force has faced very stiff resistance and intense fighting from the Oromo Liberation Army in the last few weeks. The Oromo Liberation Army actually have captured several of the Ethiopian government troops and confiscated a lot of weapons and bullets. So the fighting is still ongoing. There is an expectation that the next rounds of negotiation, will soon start in Tanzania. Hopefully there will be pressure from the global communities, international communities, and there might have been lines have been left and open for the negotiation. However, the Ethiopian government choose to go to war. Depending on this, regarding this, the Oromo Liberation Army issued a statement, and the statement. So I'll read the statement. So RWSMA Oromo, Aba Wobo, Oromo Liberation Front, issued a statement on May 17th, just yesterday, regarding peace talks and the regime's recent offensives. OLF-OLA press release. After the first round of talks in Tanzania concluded on May 3rd, Arat Kilo initiated a broad offensive across territories in Oromia under our administration. This move starkly contradicts the understanding that de-escalation should be prioritized during negotiation process. The current offensive seems designed to secure leverage ahead of the second round of talks. Despite our unwavering commitment to peace, we have been forced to defend our territories in West Wallaga, East Wallaga, Horogudru, West Shawa, East Shawa, RC, Hararge, Borana, and Guji. This defense has resulted in substantial casualties on the regime's side. Our forces have remained resolute, successfully repelling each offensive and effectively dismantling the regime's primary staging ground for offensive in southwest Shawa. Nonetheless, the toll this conflict takes on civilians is deeply concerning. The regime's forces have resorted to coercive tactics, pressuring civil servants to finance their military operations and compelling farmers to supply food for their troops. Those who resist face punitive actions which range from the withholding of fertilizer to summary execution. The army has also forcibly drafted farmers into local militias. As they traverse the towns and villages of Oromia, the regime's forces engage in robbery, mobile phone confiscation, and public beatings. They have set homes ablaze, ruined farms, and perpetrated horrific acts of sexual violence. These ongoing atrocities underscore the regime's alarming disregard for civilian lives. Additionally, they are exploiting civilians financially, manipulating the peace process to garner sympathy from our people. While we stand firm in our commitment to protect our people and our land against all assault, the OLF-OLA wishes to underscore that the Oromo movement cannot be pushed into accepting a separate political settlement through military pressure. We urge the international community to condemn the regime's attempt to control the negotiation terms through military force. Rather than perpetrating violence, we call on the regime to gather itself towards engaging in a meaningful dialogue and moving towards an honorable political settlement that respects the sacrifices of our martyrs and realizes the aspiration of our people. This remains the only reliable path to enduring peace. Victory to the Oromo and all oppressed peoples. OLF-OLA High Command, May 17, 2023. So, according to the OLA, the fighting has been taking place in almost all corners of Oromia, and the Oromo Liberation Army forces have been able to successfully repel regime forces, and this has been confirmed by people from the ground who have spoken to FNN. The fighting is still ongoing. The Oromo Liberation Army, as I've mentioned, have captured some of the Ethiopian government troops alive, and they were able to confiscate a lot of weapons. They are currently operating in and around Ambo. They recently took action against the Ethiopian government forces in Bushoftu, which is just right outside the capital. So recently, I listened to Masai Makonnen from Ethio 360 describing the current movement of the Oromo Liberation Front, such that the Oromo Liberation Army is currently encircling the capital and is almost considering to enter the capital. And Masai rightfully tells that, correctly predicts that the Oromo Liberation Army will soon probably will also be seen in the capital. And so, even though the Ethiopian government is trying to come victorious and try to dictate the terms of the negotiation that will take place in Tanzania, I don't think the reality is playing in the as wished by the Ethiopian government. And this is a very fluid situation. We have reported about the war between the OLA and the Ethiopian government in the past. We have reported on the war between the OLA, between the Ethiopian government and the TDF. And this is really a very fluid situation, and the situation can change from time to time. But years of observing the Oromo struggle have shown, has taught us that the Oromo movement, the Oromo struggle for national self-determination will not be stopped. It cannot be silenced or removed without achieving its goals. The Oromo struggle for self-determination will continue until there is a group that's really willing to listen to the Oromo demand. That is what the Oromo Liberation Front, the Oromo Liberation Army statement says. According to the statement, as you can see, the OLF-OLA has said, rather than perpetrating violence, we call on the regime to gear itself toward engaging in meaningful dialogue and moving towards an honorable political settlement that respects the sacrifices of our martyrs and realizes the aspiration of our people. This remains the only reliable path to enduring peace. I personally agree with this conclusion of the Oromo Liberation Army. The Oromo people have been struggling for the last half a century. It's now almost 50 years. Actually, the 50th year is going to be celebrated in a couple of weeks. So we have counted over 50 years, and the reason why the Oromo people's struggle cannot be eradicated and cannot be abolished is because it's a popular demand. It's a demand of the Oromo people. It's not just a demand of a group that's organized and fighting for power. That is not in the case of the Oromo people. The Oromo people have very clear and well-defined demands that none of the Ethiopian governments, whether current or past, have chosen to listen to or to grant. And so the Ethiopian government has also shown by its treatment of those who have chosen the only democratic and peaceful way of answering the people's demand, the Oromo people constitutional demand. So the Ethiopian government, by subjecting those who have chosen the road of peace into lengthy imprisonment and maltreatment, it has forced the Oromo youth who have actually brought the change, and that the Prosperity Party right now enjoys, have chosen to resort to army. So the Oromo Liberation Army has been strengthened and increased in number in a way that has never been seen before. And the reason is that the Oromo youth who were spearheading the revolution from 2016 and 2018, they have never got any one of their demands answered by the Ethiopian government. Rather, they were subjected to extrajudicial killing, mass killing, and the likes. So that's why the Oromo Liberation Movement is stronger than ever right now. So that's it concerning the negotiation and war between the Oromo Liberation Front and Oromo Liberation Army and Prosperity Party forces. Um, Next, I will pass to the survey on constitutional amendment. So, just today, I received a document, the report from an Ethiopian uh, institution that conducted a survey and released the result of its survey. The survey was conducted by Policy Studies Institute and the department called Federalism and Diversity Management Policy Studies Center. So this organization, Policy Studies Institute, the logo of this organization is that of the Ethiopian current government. The star, the yellow star on blue background. And so my assumption is this is a part that was put in place by the Ethiopian government. And so the Policy Studies Institute or PSI conducted a survey and released the result. According to the date on the document, it says October 2022, but I just received today. And this is in relation to the news that the Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation posted on social media in the last week concerning the people's. So the Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation was saying the Ethiopians are requesting the amendment of the constitution. And according to the survey that was conducted, the survey says almost the participants were from almost all regions except the Tigray region. The Policy Institute says it was unable to conduct the survey in Tigray because of the security problem. However, when I look at the content of the survey, there are a number of meteorological um, inaccuracies and some incorrect methods that were applied in terms of sample size generation. There is no detailed explanation and description about how the sample sizes were selected. The survey says the sample size were selected based on systematic random sampling, and it uses uh, the population census data from 2007. Today we are in 2023. The Ethiopian population by 2007 was barely 100,000. Today, the Ethiopian population is estimated to be around 124 million. Around 124 million. The ratio that it appears the Policy Institute applies some kind of ratio system to sample, to conduct some kind of proportional sample from the regions. So more from the Oromia region according to the population, and then next from the Amara region, and from almost from around 40 national groups out of the 83 Ethiopian nations. And the focus was the uh, aspect of the constitution that that is related to nationalism. They call it ethnic. The aspect of the constitution that provides that deals with the nations and nationalism. So the topics that they investigated included the Article 8, for example. It deals about, they started from the preamble and then Article 8. The Article 8 is about the sovereignty and constituent power based on nationalism and what they call ethnic federalism. And the preamble starts by saying the nations. I can read this from the survey itself. So So they say there are two phrases on the preamble investigated in their research. The phrase "we, the nations, nationalities, and people of Ethiopia," and historically unjust relationship. So they kind of, the Policy Institute is trying to sanitize the Ethiopian constitution and remove the articles that grant constitutional right to nations, and including they almost included the controversial topics that are spearheaded by Amara elite, such as they try to say the operation that was conducted and the assimilationist movement that existed before 1991 was that of the elite and political group, and it didn't relate to and the people. So it tries to exonerate the Amara people, for example, who have been described as the one that have been enjoying protection and kind of the higher class. They have been the higher class. They have been the ones that were enjoying a first class citizenship in Ethiopia for so long, and their culture, their language have been expanded, while the language and culture of the rest of the Ethiopian people have been suppressed. So the current study tried to sanitize the Ethiopian constitution from such recognitions that were put in place during the 1994. And the other things are including language, whether Front-Oromo and other language should be added to the federal language of Ethiopia. And the others that have been studied according to their report is Article 39. Article 39, including all its sub sections, including Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3, and Section 4. The section 1 to section 3 is about the cultural rights, the right to language, speaking one's own language and developing one's own language, the right to self-govern within the border of Ethiopia, and then on and the last two are about self-determination, and especially the fourth sub-article is about secession. So they conducted what the people's thoughts are on these aspects of the constitution. And the other topic that they investigated in detail was about whether Finfinne should be part of Oromia, whether it should be another state, should be established as an state, whether it should continue in its current form, its status quo, which means the city would be administered by the federal government as well as the Oromia regional state. And so these are on the survey. According to the outcome of the survey, there was a stark difference in their views between the Oromo people and the Amara people. And it seems there are some who align with the Amara people, such as the Afar and the Awi people from the north. Those are, and also the southern nations and nationalist peoples region. The people from this region appeared in this survey. The survey writers say they almost voted in all aspects along with the Amara respondents from Amara region or the Amara people. What was very surprising for me was according to this survey, the responses from Sidama. The Sidama just last year became a region or a state in Ethiopia, and that was after a lot of struggle. And according to this survey, the respondents from Sidama voted along the side of the Amara. That kind of made me think and doubt the accuracy of this survey, and it was really very difficult for me to accept the Sidama people would vote to restore a unitary system in Ethiopia after fighting and paying heavy sacrifices and establishing their own state. I don't believe they would really want to go back into the unitary system, and also their views about the demands by the Oromo people, which have been a core topics that were discussed or that were presented to the respondent in this survey. According to the report from this survey, the Sidama people voted in favor of the Amara respondents in terms of, for example, whether Addis Ababa should be governed by Oromia or should stay in the current state. And also, I couldn't really understand why the southern nations and nationalist people would want the unitary system. Why would they want the reference to the nations and nationalities be eliminated from the Ethiopian constitution, given that the disappearance of these kind of sections in the preamble and articles and constitutional rights would mean the language would be encouraged upon, their culture would be eroded, and it would be in the long run replaced with a unitary system of one people. And then we know what this culture is and what the language is going to be, based on what currently is on plate. And so, um, in addition to questions about accuracy of this survey, And in terms of metrology, in terms of who has been sampled, and how the data handled, how the accuracy of the data, and whether there was manipulation of data. There are a lot of questions that are really big answer based on the report from this survey. One of the my concern about this survey is almost in every section of the survey there was no there was a very minimum absolute number presented. In almost all data that they presented were in percentages. So, for example, according to 2007 census, the Oromo population at the point at that point was said to be around 34.4, 34.5% of the Ethiopian population at that moment. And Amara constituted, according to the census, about 29%. So if we just stick to that and say the current demographics is exactly the same as what has been in 2007, which is about nearly like more than 16 years ago. That is really very concerning. That is really concerning. That cannot be accurate. There is a population change, and the figures would change. In terms of the Amara, if we just focus on the Amara, and at the moment there was no group were claiming they are Iman, they were Ago, and any other group. It was just the Amara. Now, a large segment of the population and districts in the Amara region are categorized as Ago, and large segments are categorized as Kimant. And these people are nation group, and they don't want to be referred to as Amara. So the Amara population definitely would decline, and also the proportion should decline. And so, did the survey take this into account? Did it survey the Command people, the Gov't people, and the Mara people separately? And also, with the absence of the Tigray people from this survey, how can we interpret the result of this survey without a large segment of the Tigray population being part of this? I'm sure the Tigray, if Tigrayan population were surveyed, most likely, this is my thought, and I can't say without the survey being conducted. Can't 100% fully say, but I estimate that respondents from Tigray would vote alongside the Oromo, alongside the Somali. So for most of the surveys that were conducted, they vote in terms of Afan Oromo being another federal language. The Oromos, the Somalis, the Harari, and the Harari, some other group from southern nations voted pro the addition of Afan Oromo into the federal language. In terms of the capital, Finfinne, they also this group voted in favor of the Oromia, the Finfinne to be part of Oromia. They have, especially the people from Somali, from the Ogun region, said Addis Ababa, Finfinne is part of Oromia. It should be given back to Oromia. It's Oromo land. That's what they said. That is also I and also the response from the Oromo respondents was in most part it reflects the mindset of the Oromo people, the wish of the Oromo people, except one. I'm not sure if it was really the responses from the respondents from the survey respondents from the Oromia region or the Oromos. Um, According to the report, they said that the respondents from the Oromia region said, in terms of Article 39, they said they want this the statement that provides secession as an option to be removed from the constitution. Imagine an Oromo saying this has to be taken out of the constitution. That is very surprising for me. That is very surprising. This is I don't think this reflects, especially this part reflects the outlook of the Oromo people about the Ethiopian constitution. Um, for one thing, I believe that whether this provision exists on the Ethiopian constitution or whether it's taken off the Ethiopian constitution, it would not stop the people's demand for their right. It wouldn't stop the people if they want. It wouldn't stop the people from demanding secession or establishing an independent state of Oromia, establishing an independent state of Somali, establishing an independent state of uh, Tigray. If the people feel they are disenfranchised and their rights are trampled upon, and if the people don't feel safe in the Ethiopian empire, the people will definitely choose to become independent, and that's regardless of whether the provision is on the constitution or whether it is taken out of the constitution. It's going to be very hard at the and no none of the Ethiopian government would freely say yes, you can go, you can establish Oromia and go your way. That is not going to be easy anyways. It's not going to be for free, so most likely will require arm twisting, just like the what is currently happening between the OLF-OLA and the Ethiopian government. So this is my take in terms of meteorological accuracy of the Policy Institute research. One, the sampling method seems to be inaccurate, and it's not unclear whether they depended on meteorologically accurate and correct method. It says systematic random sampling. We don't know what that would look like and what proportion they use to sample. We don't know the exact number of people. They say about 1,000, 150, something like that. Um, it's right in front of me, but it said the number has been improved, especially in Oromia. We don't know the detail about who these people are. Like, one when you conduct this kind of research, you have to show the demographics of the people. How many of these people are male, female, in terms of education? I think they showed some demographics about education and all sorts in terms of writing and the likes, but really it's not very clear. It has to be better. In terms of the focus of the writers, they really, and when it comes to, for example, language being added, they you can see through where their focus is and where their desire is. And instead of focusing on the majority who supported a language, other language has to be added as a federal language, they focus on those who oppose. They highlight those part that want to do away with the rights of nations and nationalities enshrined in the constitution. They focus on those who said, the few who said the Article 39 has to be removed, and all of it should be removed from the constitution, something like that. So, and besides that, the description of percentage. Let's say um, 200 Oromos participate. Let's say this is an example. 200 Oromos participate, and let's say 150 Amara respondents participate in this survey. And let's say on one questionnaire, 90% of the Oromos, 90% of the Oromos mean it's about 180 people. And when we talk about 90% of the 90% of the 150 Amaras, the number is that much less. So we are talking about what is 90% of 150, right? That's about 135. So we are talking about 135 people compared to 180. So, but when you talk in terms of percentage, it's both 90%. So, what does it sound? It sounds the numbers are equal because we are talking about, percentage, right? So, 90% of the Amara say this, 90% of the Oromo say that. Are these two numbers equal? No, it's not equal. We have to take into the absolute number into context when we discuss these kind of issues. So in terms of presentation, in terms of discussion, the article was very detailed, well written, and very understandable, but systemic there are systemic flaws. There are the tone of the discussion is the group behind this report are pushing for the article that provide right to nations and nationalities to be sanitized from the constitution, and this has been already being pushed by the Amara elite, the Amara politicians, and so basically this research played into the hands of those, and they also in some places when you are talking about what your survey respondent said, you have to use the passive voice. It was said by survey participant, or survey participant said that, but in most parts of the report they were describing as if this is their own view. So the Oromo and other nations in that country should be very cognizant of this, and they should be aware of what is being pushed on them, and they should discuss. They should, especially what the constitution provides, should be taught, and also is it something that's really given that's being given as a free will of the the party in power, or this is a product of people's struggle for self rule, autonomy. So it should be like in that context, and there are a lot of people who are pushing to return Ethiopia back to the pre 1991 era, but that has been transformed by the struggling and sacrifices of nations and nationalities in the empire, and it should be and those who want to sanitize the constitution from the articles that grants nations and nationalities the right to self rule, right to self determination, and including independence. Those rights should be protected, and those who want to get rid of these should not be allowed, in my opinion. So with that, I believe we will have a series of discussion about all these topics that I have covered today, including the negotiation and war between the Prosperity Party and the Oromo Liberation Front, Oromo Liberation Army. This is oxymoron, and You cannot uh, conduct war at the same time negotiate like peace talks. If you are in peace talks, you have to stop the war. You have to suspend the war. The conflict has to be stopped. In terms of what is going on between the Ethiopian government and the Oromo Liberation Front, Oromo Liberation Army, this has not been materialized. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, hopefully the next round of talks might start again, and I believe international communities would push both parties to suspend the current intense fighting that's going on. And in terms of the survey on constitutional amendment, the survey found out almost the result indicates that the view of Amara respondents and the view of Oromo respondents are totally opposite, and the other nations and nationalities kind of like split between the two. Generally, some aligned with the Amara respondents, some aligned with the Oromo respondents. Among those who are aligned with the Amara respondents are the Afar people, respondents from Afar and southern nations and southwest Ethiopian nations. The group that aligned with the Oromos are like the Somali, the um, Benishangul Gumuz, Harari, and other groups such as in some ways the respondents from Gambela, respondents from Gurage, they aligned with the Oromo respondents. In terms of the items very on top of Oromo demands, including Addis Ababa, Finfinne being part of Oromia. The Oromo respondents unanimously agreed almost about this. Most of them agreed about this, and this also a lot of them, of course, want the Article 39 provision should stay intact as is on the Constitution. But there were some close to 50% who, according to this survey, say the cessation, a statement about cessation should be removed from the Constitution, regardless of whether, and that's my opinion, regardless of whether the cessation stays in the constitution or not, that would not stop people demanding independence. So I don't think it would benefit anyone removing that. And one few of Oromo respondents explained it's just like marriage. When you are married, if you respect each other, and if there is love, if there is respect, if there is if the family dynamics is conducive, no one is going to demand for divorce. But if that is not there, if there is no respectful relationship, and whether one likes or not, it's the universal right of the other person to a demand for divorce. So that's going to happen whether you know. And so the existence of the cessation kind of guarantees that, and should stay on the constitution according to some of the survey respondents. And like I said, I have my own reservations and concern about the methodological accuracy and interpretation of the survey result. And but I believe it's okay that it was conducted, but Tigray has not participated, so that also indicates this the result of this survey cannot be interpreted and cannot be taken at face value, and the result cannot be acted upon. It can be may probably it can be used for further research and the likes. That has been Infinite News Network. I'm Daniel Debaba. This is on negotiation and war between the PP and the OLF-OLA and survey on constitutional amendment conducted by the Policy Institute, Policy Research Institute of Ethiopia, Policy Studies Institute of Ethiopia. I hope you enjoyed the discussion and the analysis. If you have question, leave us your comment. Please like and share our transmission, our programs. So we'll be meeting again in Front-Oromo in about 30 minutes, and we'll discuss about the same issues among with other people. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. For now, thank you for watching. This is Finfine News Network.